Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so I think what we need to understand is what's the tree of life, what's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and what is, who is the serpent? What is the serpent? Okay? Your question?
What made us, if we were connected with God, what is it that made us come into this trance? I know you talked about it numerous times, but if I'm doing well, I'm feeling good, why would I want to disconnect? And I probably already know the answer, but I just, why is it that I would want to disconnect? And I'm probably going to answer it. I'm going to see it right now. Why would I want to disconnect from the source?
Okay.
If I know this is, I got it made, everything. Okay, let's just use physical terms.
I got you.
Bills paid.
Yeah.
Everything is straight,
Why?
I have no worries. Why would I want to disconnect from something like that?
Okay. Now, you tell me I'm not going to do this stuff, so I'm not going to do what I'm doing. First of all, you have to understand that there is no disconnect. None whatsoever. The Creator is always with us, and we with the Creator. We just don't recognize it. No matter what we're involved in, no matter how mean, evil that people perceive us to be, we are still one with the Creator.
Right.
All right. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. Why is it that George, do me a favor. Take this. This is James. See what his message is. Why is it that it says in the beginning, Elohim, God created the heaven and the earth became a void and without form, and darkness covered the deep. That's what it says, right?
Right.
Okay. Why is it that darkness covered the deep? Why is it that the first thing that's mentioned there is darkness and not light? Why is it? It does not mention light first, it mentions darkness first, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it said the darkness covered the deep. First of all, I kind of dealt with this last Monday night. The creation, the creation of the darkness was for a purpose of us understanding that there is no separation. Let me show you why. If we are in the image, right, then we are supposed to be able to do exactly what the one who created us did. Jesus clarified that. Now, if you trust as I trust, not only will you do what I do, but great things you shall do.
Right.
That's what he was saying to us.
Okay.
The same thing that was said from the beginning when we were created in the image. Now, how is it that we can be created in the image and remain in the light and still be creators?
Still be what?
Creators. You can't do it. In order to be a creator, you have to create something. If you are a mechanic and you never fix the car, are you a mechanic? Now, you might say you are, but in order for you to know that you are a mechanic, what happens? You have to repair a car. So in order for you to know that you are a creator, you was punishing right there. In order for you to be a creator, you must do what? Create. Right?
Right.
Now, this is what happened, and this is one of the most difficult things to get people to walk up the stairs with. The creation, purpose of creation, the garden, the tree of life, tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the serpent are the most misunderstood concepts in the scripture, mistranslated, and most difficult to get people to accept because we have been ingrained with what we've been ingrained with. Now, See if this makes sense. Suppose for a moment that you walked into a garment factory. In a garment factory, what happened, I just spread cloth. And when you spread cloth, it's a machine on a table as long as this building that you spread cloth on. And after you get all the cloth spread, then you roll out this pattern of pieces. And you take this knife, it's about like this, and you cut the pieces. Now, if you were to walk into that room and you did not know that it was the garment factory, and you saw all those pieces out there, it looks like chaos. Right? Doesn't it? And the darkness covered the deep. Darkness is chaos. So the chaos is there. Now, when you walk into that room and you see that chaos, that pattern that's there, I made that pattern for you. I've told you how to bring this thing together and what it's supposed to look like. So I set the moon and the stars into their place. I separated the light from darkness, and I showed you the difference between the two. And the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, I create all those. I show you how it's supposed to look, what it's supposed to look like, right? These things are still spiritual. I'm telling you, these are images that's in your head. They're not manifested physical objects, right? Mm-hmm. Just like the garment is not a manifested physical object. They're just pieces. Now, you stand there and you watch as all these pieces are put at the head of the line. And then as they go back towards the back where the packing takes place, you begin to see a garment develop. The first person who picks up a piece, sews that piece, drops it in the box goes back, and when you get to the end of the line, you have a full garment. And by the way, just in case you didn't know that, when we worked there, when it got to the back, some of it was JCPenney, some of it was Macy's, some of it was Walmart. But all the prices were different. But it's the same, came out the same place. But that's what we used to do. I remember watching gowns being made for kids at Macy's. They were like $80. At JCPenney's, they were $29. But they're the same stuff. Now, so now you see this thing made, right? Guess what you have to do? If you want to be a seamstress, what you have to do is make that garment before you can be called a seamstress, right? You have to make that garment. Bobby, you had a question.
I know that if I look at some equations, some mathematical equations, to me it would be
thank you.
Stuff I don't know anything about.
Right.
Or if I looked at a car right now and the engine pieces were separate from each other, that would look like chaos to me.
Right.
So my chaos may not be someone else's chaos if in fact they've learned how to create.
Exactly where I'm headed.
Oh, okay, go ahead. But you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Yes, ma'am.
Just because I call it chaos doesn't mean it's really.
That's where I'm headed.
Chaos.
In order for you to become a seamstress, you have to put it together. But it's not chaos to me. Because I know what the end product's supposed to be. Got it? Now, suppose then that this pattern is in the first chapter of Genesis that was laid out before us. And when we get to the second chapter of Genesis, where it talks about, and he took the dust of the earth and formed the man and breathed the breath of life, and he became a living soul, etc. Right? The second chapter of Genesis is, the first chapter is the pattern, the second chapter is putting everything together. And the person who's responsible for putting it together is the man or the Adam that was created, because it's not a man like we know a man. It's the Adam, because it's both sexes, it's androgynous. It has not been separated, right? Mm-hmm. So in order for us to be Elohim, in order for us to be that image, we have to be able to do what he did. If we do not have the material or opportunity to do what he did, we can never be the image that he said we are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, how do we get the material and opportunity to do what he did? We fall down the steps. And because we think that our chaos is everyone else's chaos, and because we want somebody to do everything for us, we say, you punish me. You punish me. You need to let me into that place where the tree of life is. You need to move that sword. But then the Father says, but in order for that sword to be moved, your desire must be there. And your desire to be who you were created to be must be there, as opposed to you creating who you think you ought to be. You being who you think you should be. You see that?
Yes.
Now, the reason we feel like we were separated is because at the point where we ate from the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the vessel was broken. In other words, our understanding of what we perceive to be was shattered into pieces.
Okay.
And that's what we are now. We talk about the oneness of us all,
Right.
but when we look with our eyes, we see pieces. We see pieces. But yet, we are still one. That we represent the vessel that was shattered. And each individual person not only represents the vessel that was shattered, but each individual person is a house for that vessel. And that is the reason there is not a word in the Hebrew or the Aramaic for a living body. It's a corpse or a substance from which a corpse develops. Those are the words in the Aramaic or the Hebrew for what we call the living body. So there's no word for that. The reason is because that flesh, that corpse, does not have life without the spark that we are. If there's no light in that body, there's no life in that body. So it's a corpse. So this is a corpse. We are the life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We are the life. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself. You cannot change who you were created to be. You had a question, Dan?
Yeah, the step thing is getting to me.
Okay.
In reference to why is it so easy in the beginning to go up the step than to come down?
Usually, going up the step is where the most danger is the first time.
First time.
The first time. The tumble comes when you're trying to go up the steps on your own for the first time. And you don't know how to balance yourself. You don't know what to hold on to until you fall. And then when you fall back down the steps, the next time you go up, you are more cautious and you may not make it that time. But guess what? The Father comes and says, hold on to this. This is what you need to do to help you get up the steps. That's why.
I know a lot of times once you take a couple of steps, you go up, and you're like, well, as a kid, then they just want to come back down, but they're afraid to come back down.
Yes, yeah, and that's it. When you see, it's like being on the mountaintop, being at the Mount of Transfiguration. When you experience the essence of the light, you don't want to come back down. You feel like you accomplished something. Then, when you really think about it and you look back, you say, I don't want to go back down there.
That's right. Okay. Okay.
If I go back down there, I'm going to fall into the same stuff I used to fall into. So I can't do that. It's like when I'm dealing with people who are wrestling with addiction. As a matter of fact, I have one now with whom I'm dealing, and that person cannot come back to unity. As long as they are where they are, they're fine. But the moment they hit union, they go right back to the same place where they were. And the efforts now is to help the person to see it is not union. That's the problem. It is your determination that's the problem. your desire to be who you are has to go beyond where you are at this moment. You see? Now, I'm the one who is in this person's life in that regard, so it is my responsibility to make sure that this person can get up the steps without falling. And if the person does fall, comes back to you and he gets back into the same thing again, I don't kick him to the curb. I say, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. A child falls a number of times before he's able to walk. It's okay. It does not matter if it takes 5 minutes or 5 years. We're going to do this thing. Now, what have I done? I've infused that person with the confidence that I have on that person's behalf. And more times than not, I will say things like, you know what, think what you want to think, feel what you want to feel, do what you choose to do. I got this if you let me have it. And I'll walk them through it. Why? Because I'm not a codependent, I'm a burden bearer. That's the difference. Can you see that? I'm a burden bearer. And there's a very thin line between the codependent and the burden bearer. You have to know where to draw the line.
Pastor, I know we're not talking about the main thing. We're not talking about addictions. But don't everyone have an addiction?
Yes. Yes, yes. Everyone is addicted. People are addicted to religion.
So we all need each other.
Yeah, no question about it. All of us got addictions, yes.
Yeah.
Except me, of course. You know.
You know I was going to say that.
But yeah, all of us have addictions, and the addictions that we have, we wrestle with, right?
Yeah.
And some of them we just don't talk about.
And some of them we just want to keep wrestling with.
Yeah.
but
but we do have them. Now, the idea, did that help you there? Okay. The idea of the tree of life. When I say understand what the tree of life actually is, understand that, first of all, it says the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There is no indication in the whole concept of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there's no indication that there's life at all. It does not say anything about life at all. It just says the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If there is life there, why is it that it does not say the tree of the life of the knowledge of good and evil? There is no indication. And the reason there is no indication is because they are two different concepts. But yet, they are the same. Okay, the tree of life cannot be seen. It cannot be perceived with the five senses, the natural senses. The tree of life is in the realm of perfection and enlightenment, in a place of completion. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is in the physical dimension, and we see it as darkness, disorder, and unpredictable circumstances. So what I'm saying is that the spiritual realm is the tree of life, and the earth realm is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the only way that it gets life is through us. How many times have we said, be careful what you ask for? Be careful what you say. Those kinds of things. Why? Because we are given life to it. We have a choice. We can give life by virtue of seeking the tree of life, which is understanding who we are, which is spiritual enlightenment. We can do that, or we can create our own light. Religion. The difference between religion and spirituality is that religion is a business, and spirituality is you. The spiritual will deal with you whether there is finances involved or not. Religion ain't. Religion has a sense of beliefs that do not necessarily coincide with what's in the book. And we have to be careful about that. Now, religion is not only something that you go to church for. Some people's job is their religion. Anything that you prioritize beyond the one who created you is your religion. It doesn't matter. It can be your college fraternity. It can be your family. It can be your car. It can be your mind. Whatever it is. Because I'm not going to lie to you. At one point in my life, my religion was my intellect. And I felt like I was the stuff. Because there was not much stuff that I could not talk to you about. That was my religion. And then my religion became Baptist doctrine. Until I went through the doctrine and began to see that it did not line up with the scripture necessarily. And I had to take the scripture as precedence over everything that didn't line up with the scripture. Bring all those imaginations, make them subject to the Christ. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, with this tree of knowledge of good and evil, our good, now notice it says good and evil, right and unright. Just because we perceive something to be good, it doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it right. If it does not line up with the book, it's not right. I don't care how good we think it is. It has to line up with what the book says. Does that make sense? If it's not in the word, it's not right. Now, the good and evil. The life. How do we give life to this chaos that exists? How do we do that? Well, the scripture says that life and death are in the tongue. Are you familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it? Life and death are in the tongue. Deuteronomy. Mm-hmm. Life and death in the tongue. Okay. How is that true? The way that is true is because you cannot speak without breathing. You can think, but you can't speak without breathing. So, the words become vessels of the light that you give them. So when you speak, you are giving life to what you're saying. Now, whether the results is life or death depends not only on your intent, but it also depends on how it is received. If your intent is to hurt, that's death, right? Yes. But if I do not receive it as pain, the results for me is life. That's a transformation. I take what you said as a detriment to me and transform it into light because I don't accept it from that. I'll give you an example. One of the most difficult battles I have fought and still continue to fight is one of rejection and acceptance. I still battle with that. To the extent that if I call someone and they don't call me back, when they say that they are, I wonder if are they upset with me or they playing games, they don't want to be bothered with me. So, I go through that. And I deal with that. Then there are times that it doesn't happen, I don't care. I just let it go. But there are times I don't let it go. But see, you might not do that, but it's something in your life you do hold on to that you should. Every one of us. Yes. That's again what Barbara's saying. Your chaos is not mine, and mine is not yours. But that's one of those things that I deal with. And I'm getting to the place where I talk myself beyond that. If you don't like me, if you don't accept me, that's your problem. You don't know what you're missing because you don't know what's in. Everything that you need is Him. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be rejected. If I reject you, what I need is with you. Can you see that?
Yes.
Your enemy is not someone who fights you. Your enemy is someone who's begging you for something that it needs. That's what your enemy is. It's something in you that it needs. Anyway, so the life that I give to rejection, I'm sorry, if you reject me, I give life to it by saying I'm hurt. Not to you necessarily, but I experienced the hurt. So I gave life to it. But if you reject me and I'm okay with it and say, you know, what am I to learn from this? This thing is designed to strengthen me. Now I have transformed them. And once the transformation takes place, then I stop experiencing the rejection because that's not an area where I need to be strengthened. Can you see that? Janice?
Does it also work if, say you're rejected, you feel the hurt momentarily, but you refuse to engage it or really deal with it and make a decision to move past it on to the next thing or understanding what it is? I mean, because the hurt still happens, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, it does and it doesn't. I'll give you another example. It used to bother me when I wanted to do things like, for example, I wanted to carry Phoebe someplace, or I wanted to do something for her and I didn't have the finances. It will hurt me. But now if I don't have it, it doesn't hurt me. And the reason it doesn't hurt me is because if I don't have it, it must not be time. You see?
Yes.
And the reason I believe that with everything in me is because I do believe that the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. I also believe that if I seek the kingdom first, it is up to him to add all these things. So it's not time. And I just move on from that. You see the difference?
Yes.
So that's you get to that place. And regardless of what place you get to, there's always another place that you need to get to. Because this journey is a continuous journey. It does not begin and end with one incident. It's a continuous journey. And if you travel long enough, the flat road runs out and you come to a hill that you got to climb. And it slows you down. But it should never stop you. You don't sit at the bottom of the hill and say, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to get up this hill? You don't do that. You just start climbing the hill. So when a circumstance faces you, you don't stop at that circumstance and say, oh my God, here I go, Lord, why me? I'm going to sit right here. It will never change. You'll never get through it. So what you do, you persevere. You get through it. Now, the other thing you don't do is, if you perceive that there's lack in your life, and there isn't, because the Lord is my shepherd, therefore I have no lack. You know, so there's no lack. But if you perceive that there is lack in your life, and you want, or there's a circumstance that you want change in your life, and you say, God, go change that circumstance. No, you go change it. He will give you the wisdom and the strength, but you go change it. How do I know that? Sit on your steps and wait for God to drop a loaf of bread. Wait for God to bring you some bread or some meat. Wait for him to bring you a drink of water. It's not going to happen. But if you trust, if you cannot get up off of that step, he will send you. But if you can get up off of that step, he will give you the wisdom and the strength to get it. Can you see that? That's our life. Now, regardless of how much you depend on me, if you sit on that step, I cannot give you the wisdom and the strength if you won't accept it. In other words, I can't feed you unless you desire it. And when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, your desire begins to increase. And sometimes it takes pain, it takes heartache for desire to increase, because we will not accept what's being offered sometimes before we are forced to accept it. And the forcing to accept it is not the Creator beating you over your head saying you will accept this. No. There are circumstances that we bring into our own lives that puts us in the place to say, you know what, I need to change. Because my life did not change from what it was because my breath smelled like pet milk. And I woke up one morning and said, I'm so righteous, I'm going to follow the Lord. These people need me because I'm good. That's not what changed me. What changed me was the recognition of my frailty, my weakness, my darkness, my confusion. That's what changed me. Because let me tell you something, with the understandings that I had from my studies in philosophy or the studies I've done in the sciences, the political experiences that I've had, I was it. I ain't need anything. So why is it that I need all this stuff? And with all of that, at Fort Riley, Kansas, my eyes opened and I began to see, out of all the things that I was seeing absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because the tree of light is not perceived with the five senses. But when that guy came in and handed me that New Testament and said, God told me to give you this, and I rejected him and left it land on that table, and one day I picked it up and read it from Matthew to Revelations and did that several times, that is when I began to see that I was blind, even though I had sight. Didn't understand it from that perspective at that time, but looking at it from where I am, that's what was going on with me. So it did, and keep in mind, I was not moving. I was in a hospital bed, so I had to be still before I could see. Okay. So whenever our confidence and our awareness is strong and positive, when we feel powerful, that means that we are experiencing the connection that we are to the tree of life, or that we are the tree of life itself. When we are conscious of how positive we are. Last week I said at the Great New Faith Church and at the class on Monday night, I said to them, I want you to do something for me, and you will experience it for yourself. During the course of this whole week, this is what I want you to do. I want you to push every negative thing from your mind. Every time a thought comes to you that's negative, push it out. How do you push it out? By saying, that's not who I am, I'm light. I want you to do that. And I want you to do that for the next 7 days. And then I want you to come to me and let me know what your experiences are. All week long I've been getting phone calls about how circumstances change just like that. And I shared earlier about the principal situation that was given to us last week, how quickly it changed. The situation of the management with Linda, how quickly it changed. Those things changed in the twinkling of an eye. And I got a phone call, and this young lady had, was referred to me, and she was devastated. 21 years old, and just told she had breast cancer. And I'm thinking, what am I saying to her? And I didn't have a choice but to talk, because Ron was putting on the phone. It wasn't over. Do you want to know? He was putting on the phone. So I spoke with her, and we about some things, and guess what? When she got off the phone, I spoke back with him. He said, yeah, she's fine. She was laughing and talking. That quick. All I did was talk to her. And at the end of our conversation, this is what I said to her. I want you to close your eyes, and when you see light, let me know. And she said, okay. So I said, what I want you to do is just breathe with me. Inhale and hold it. Exhale. Inhale, exhale. So, when she got finished, this is what I said to her. You were inhaling darkness and pain and fear. And you were exhaling light and calmness and courage. What the light that you saw with your eyes closed was seeing into the other realm. That's the presence of the Creator with you. That's all I said to her. And then she says to me, I think I'm going to be all right. And I told her, I do not think you're going to be all right, baby. And she said, huh? Got scared of me. I said, I know you're all right. And that changed everything in my life. And it didn't take, what was on the phone, like 10, 15 minutes later. That's all. That's the only time it took. So being aware of the light, being aware of the power and presence of who you are. You don't have to think about what you're going to do because you are what you do. You just begin speaking and everything begins to change. Now, on the other hand, if you are experiencing doubt and you overcome with sadness, you're depressed, you feel with selfish concerns, that's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's what you got to deal with. Woe is me. That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Depression, listen to what that word is, depression. Pressing what down? Pressing the light down. Depression. And we talk about depths of depression. You're in a deep state of depression. You're in a place of darkness. Or you're in a dark hole. You're in a dark... Don't we?
Yeah.
That's how we talk about depression. Because depression is chaos. But it's selfish chaos. Why? The reason depression is selfish chaos is because we don't get depressed unless we think something happened to us. It's all about me at that moment. And if we can see beyond that selfishness, if we can see that this is an opportunity, this is a circumstance, this is a means for me to grow strong and move in the direction of the light. This is the pit that I'm in is only a stepping stone for me to rise above it. That's what we have to see. The angels ascending and descending. The message, the energy goes up and brings light. You know, when we talk about prayer or praying, we're talking about bringing ourselves into balance with the Creator. So it is an expression of a desire to be aware of the oneness that we have with the Creator. So the idea of prayer cannot be selfish, and it cannot have any sense of being detrimental to anyone. It has to be for the benefit of mankind, this kind of man. And how do you benefit mankind is by introducing mankind to who he is. Let him see the presence of the light that he is. Can you see that?
Yes.
James,
Yes, sir.
I had a situation.
Uh-huh.
Or an experience. Last Saturday, I'm washing comforters because they need to be washed.
Yeah. That's a good reason.
And what happened was I come back and usually Juan and I make the bed together. Juan is not around to make the bed. So I got filled up. So now I'm making the bed by myself. And at the same time, of course, I got the music playing, Frankie Beverly,
Yeah.
blasted up to about 70.
Yeah.
I'm in the house by myself. The grandkids not around, the daughter's not around. So I found myself crying. Joy, of course, because I know her spirit was with me. And that changing of the sheets, making of the bed, began to experience waxing the floors, dusting,
Yeah.
to the point where I got so tired, I took a nap. And I'm only saying it because it wasn't a state of depression. It was a situation where I found energy because I knew her spirit was moving through me.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was ironic that once I was done, I was okay. Because I had cried what I needed to cry, and I let go whatever I needed to go. And all that stress that was there wasn't there when I started. And I mean, it was just one of those situations where you talk about being selfish. It wasn't selfish. I was just trying to let it happen.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be a lot of those, times. But I thought it was interesting that the making of the bed turned into
Yeah.
you needed to do something else. You better do
So
something
my
else.
question is this: once you made the bed, right? All these something else's that you did she do that with you or alone?
Alone.
She did alone, right? Her energy did that. If you had not embraced her energy, you wouldn't have done it. You see, that's that sense of you have what I call the Adam effect. That's the experience you have. The Adam effect is when you recognize, though you are masculine, there's that feminine energy that you're one with. Her feminine energy and your masculine energy, you said, I got the energy to do it. That's because you were one. You're more one now than you were when she was on this earth. And she's more alive now than you are. Can you see that? So that Adam effect took place because what you did together turned into what she was doing, but you were doing the doing, so the both of you were doing it in the other realm, but it was manifesting here. Does that make sense? And it wasn't selfish, not so much because you had to let go, because it's not like letting go, it's accepting, it's embracing. It's not selfish because you're comfortable that she lives. As opposed to something ending, it continues. So, those are, most of our life, we live in the realm of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because we get so caught up in these natural circumstances, our jobs, our kids, etc., until we lose sight or we neglect the spiritual of who we are, the tree of life. And at that moment, it took the making of that bed to make that connection, to make that awareness, to form that bridge between this world and the other world. The world of light, the world of the tree of life, and this world of darkness, this world of chaos that needs order brought to it. That's what we are doing. We are created. You created an experience. You created an opportunity. And as you spoke here today, it helps someone, whether it's in this room or whether someone someplace else. The experience is there. So these are the kinds of things that we do, and we think that they are relegated to our surroundings, but they're not. The life of it travels beyond the walls. Can you see that?
What I also perceived as he talked was there was an opportunity once he felt that oneness of making the bed, it was an opportunity to make a choice. The choice would be to sit and wallow in it, not move beyond that, but let it depress you down, or transform it to what it really was, to the experiences that you really had together, and to move forward, meaning you cleaned up. How many of us experience that and we go into ourselves and we don't come out for years?
Yeah.
So you use that as an opportunity not only to cry and to feel the oneness, but to move through it. And so that doesn't help just you, it helps somebody else as well to push through that.
Climb the hill.
Huh?
I said to climb the hill.
Yeah, that's
The
it.
road is already flat.
That's it. See, in order for us to maintain this connection of this awareness, we got to maintain inner harmony. In spite of the chaos. I wrote something on the board Monday night before everybody got in. The thing I wrote on the board was, inner growth comes only when we experience the chaos of this world. Inner growth comes only when we experience the chaos of this world. If we don't, that's it, a test. If we don't deal with these things, the chaos that I need to encounter is not the chaos that you need to encounter. But guess what? It's just as chaotic. And I need just as much help as you do. That's who we are. That's how we move forward. That's how we grow. You got a question? Okay. If we seek answers in this place where we live most of our lives, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it's pointless. There are no answers in this realm. The answers come from the other realm. Let me show you what I'm talking about. By example, if you're in quicksand, the more you wiggle, the deeper you sink. Right? The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. But if you can reach out and hold on to the limb, you can pull yourself out, or at least hold on to somebody else can pull the limb. Can pull.
And the hand reaches out.
Well,
Life is
Boy, I tell you, that's the highlight.
Wow. Somebody needed that just now.
Can you pull me out?
Watch what you ask for.
But if you hold to that, someone will help you get out. You can pull yourself out. However, if you keep wiggling, you keep sinking. So what am I saying to you? We have had circumstances, we've been in places where we try to figure it out. And the more we try to figure it out, the worse it gets. Until we get to the place where there is no more figuring to be done. Till we get to the place where all options have been exhausted. Then we touch the hem of the garment. If we had done it from the beginning, it would have been okay. Yeah, we exhaust all options. Then we reach for the limit. But if in the beginning we say, you know what, I don't have the answer to this, I don't have the solution, it's going to have to come to me. And keep your life, just keep moving. Things always work out. But they don't work out without you. When you keep moving, you don't know whether you're moving through that circumstance or you just marking time until it's time to move through the circumstance. But you will look at yourself retrospectively and see, I don't even know when that ended. It was over, and I didn't even realize it.
Is that the twinkling of an eye?
Yeah, sometimes. No, yeah, it is. But that's the moving of it. So the movement of our life, the reality of our life cannot be tied to this world. That's what it's meant by you are in this world, but not of this world. You're in it. And if you're in it and not of it, why are you in it? And I'm going to tell you, I have been selfish and just not realized it in some way, this way particularly. When I'm in this world, but I'm not of it, but my desire is constantly to be out of it. It's to be, I'm serious. That's my constant desire has been to be in the other realm. And I have tried to justify it by saying stuff like, I think I can be more effective from the other side. Whatever it takes for me to help people see light, I'm more ubiquitous there than here. And so it feels like now I'm teaching myself.
Confessions.
Physician heal ourselves. Yeah. But that's, why are we in this world? We talk about these things You know, we say these things. We are in this world but not of this world, and don't have any idea of what we're talking about. We are in this world. And if you look at the word world, it talks about diversity, whether it be Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic. It talks about diversity. We are in this world in the midst of diverse chaos. Different types, different kinds of chaos is all around us. I'm going to tell you where it comes from in a few minutes. But different types of chaos is all around us. We are in this world to bring order. That's why we're here. If you can't order your life, you can't order anybody else's life. You have to bring stability and balance to you. And sometimes reaching out to someone is what brings stability to you. We are to bring light. We are not to bring light. We are the light bearers. We are the light. We are in here to bring order to 8th and Diamond. We are here to create safe havens for the kids around that place, where they can come and be carefree and learn that we're interdependent on each other, and that it is our objective to make sure that you not just be an asset to what we call society, but you be an asset to mankind by virtue of knowing that you are light regardless of the circumstances from which you come or that you are in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what we do, isn't it? So where does this chaos come from? If we understand the concept of the serpent, and I'm all over the place, I might well close this. But if we understand the concept of the serpent, then we begin to see the source of the chaos. I hope by this point, or by this time, we can see the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Can we see that? I'm hoping now that you can see that light, the tree of life is spiritual, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is a physical manifestation that we are supposed to bring to a state of spirituality. We ought to do that. That's our responsibility. That's the reason we're in this world. That's why we do what we do. Okay? Now, where did this chaos come from? We talked about the garden experience, right? We talked about that. The scripture says that, and the woman, it doesn't say Eve, it says the woman was beguiled by the serpent. It's, right? I always wondered what that beguiled word.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. In actuality, it is said that the feminine had intercourse with the serpent. And the intercourse that the feminine had with the serpent was not what you think. Couldn't possibly be what you think. And the reason it couldn't possibly be what you think is because they're spiritual at this point. So it's not the intercourse that we think about. What transpired was the intermingling of the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. Those concepts. Light intermingling with chaos. Can you see that? The pattern in Genesis, he separated the light from the darkness. The objective of us becoming, the way we become creators is separating the light from the darkness. The intermingling took place at that point. That's the intercourse that took place. Why did it take place with the feminine side of the Adam? Why?
Receptivity?
Receptivity, the womb. Put a pin in that for a second. Why did it take place with the Adam? Please keep this in mind. The reason I keep saying the Adam is because Adam is not a proper name, number one. It's Adam. And it means the entity through which the essence of the Creator flows. That's what it means. Now, even after what we call the the fall in the garden, that thing. When the Creator comes and says, "Where art thou?" Now, supposedly, the separation is taking place, right? The male and the female, right? If that is true in terms of physical, where we manifest the separation, why is it that the Creator does not say, Isha, a man, woman, where art thou? He says, Adam, where art thou? The same entity that we make reference to prior to what we call the separation, that's how he make reference to it, as though it has never been separated. Because regardless of what we think, what we perceive, whatever the Creator say that it is, that's what it is, that's what it remains. And if the Creator had delineated between male and female, then the separation would have been there permanently. It is all in our minds. That's why you can experience one. Because you're never separated. The greatest separation you ever had from her is before she transitioned. Think about it. When you're close to someone and you transition, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings are more towards them then than it was prior to that transition. So that's on the other, in the spiritual realm, that is more of a consciousness or conscious awareness of the oneness of it all. It's gradually bringing us back to the place of realizing we're one. So the intermingling of this light is the darkness and the feminine. The darkness and the light intermingling. Now, the serpent and Satan are the same entities, concepts. Satan did not become a separate entity until Dante wrote the Inferno and the Catholic Church picked up on it. That's when Satan became a separate entity as opposed to a concept. That's when the current concept that we use to reference Satan, that's when it came into being after the writing of the Inferno. Okay? Is it Dante?
Yeah.
Dante? Okay. After the writing of the Inferno. Okay. So we pick that up and we set it to the side. And then what do we see left to look at? We see that the serpent, the Satan are the same, and the Satan has both masculine and feminine energy. It is both male and female. That's the thing that we missed. Everything in the other realm is both male and female. Seed and womb. Everything. Everything that has life, ever since we manifest in this physical form, everything that gives life comes from some type of shell or enclosure. Think about it. You can go think about anything you want. It's a seed. It's something that's enclosed that bursts forth. Everything that has life. And everything that has life has in its seed, in its womb, everything that is to come after it. In the small acorn, it's a forest, that kind of thing. Okay. In the loins of the first man who landed on these shores, and the first woman who landed on these shores, and we came from them. They became our progenitors in terms of these individual things we call families. It was in the loins of those two people, all of us. Can you see that? Go back to the origins of man is in the womb of a woman in Africa. That's where it came from. Okay, thanks. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. The intermingling, the light, takes place. When they intermingled, this was not a punishment. This was not imprisonment. This was the Father extending the privilege and opportunity to the created Adam to become what it was created to be, image of Elohim. That's what it was. That's what it still is. We wrestle with that. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Is that not what it says? Huh? But against principalities, right? Against powers of darkness in high places. Is that not what it said? None of those things are spiritual that we wrestle with. We don't wrestle with the physical. We wrestle with the spiritual. In other words, the battles that we fight are not physical battles. The battles that we fight are spiritual battles. Name me one battle that you fight that's not spiritual. Anyone. And that is not a rhetorical question. One battle that you fight is not spiritual. It doesn't matter whether it's financial, whether it's personal relationships. It doesn't matter what it is. It's spiritual. Because if it's financial, it's your perception of lack. If it's a relationship, it's your desire to either own, control, manipulate, or have what you want when you want it. You can't even show me what a relationship looks like. What does it look like? Show me what money looks like. You've never seen money. You've seen a representation of it. Because if what you have in your pocket is money, then all money is supposed to look like that. Right? So you don't have a perception of it. Let me tell you something else that there is no perception of. There is no perception of money in the other world. That's why money is considered the God of this world. There's no perception of money in the other world. Everything is there. Money is the God that manipulates and controls the minds of mankind, the minds of men. Can you see that? How distracting is it when you don't have your mortgage payment? How distracting could it be with tuition not being there? It's been very distracting, right? But rather than allow it to be a distraction, it became an opportunity for you to move beyond that distraction. Can you see?
Yeah.
So everything is spiritual. So the battles we fight are spiritual. So why are they here? Because we have to be the ones to make the separation of light from darkness. We are the ones who are to convert this tree of the knowledge of good and evil to a tree of life. We are to bring life to this earth. That's who we are. That's what we do. And we talk about being the life of this earth. But we don't see it in those terms, because we look at this tree of life as being something that we can't understand. And if it's something you can't understand, then why is it in the book? I remember growing up and people would say that you're not supposed to understand everything in the Bible. And I thought things, but I had better sense than to say it, because I know what, you get hit. But I often wonder, why is it there if you're not supposed to understand it? It doesn't make sense to me. Why would I, now, from the perspective that I'm in now, of course, why would I, a father, write a way of life out, or that's supposed to be for the benefit of my children, and I write it in such a way that they can never understand it? And I tell them, you're not supposed to understand it, so what's the point? Everything is designed for us to understand. And one thing that we find out when we begin to understand it, there is no difference between the light and the darkness, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, tree of life, and day and night. There's no difference in those. All those terms are the same. Night, chaos, darkness, tree of knowledge of good and evil. All those things are the same thing. Every single one of them are the same thing. It's a different way of stating the same thing. That's all it is. And we have to come to grips with that. And when we come to grips with that, we begin to see that the intermingling of the light and the darkness it was brought into being by virtue of the serpent, or by virtue of the Satan, which is also the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and it is male and female, and that being the case, then every one of us are two things. We are two concepts. The concept of light and darkness. That's what we are. And we can choose either one. We can choose either one. The whole idea of, and her name shall be Eve, is not talking about a woman as much as it's talking about a choice. Because that word Eve also means a fork in the road. It gives you choices. So when it says in her name, the character of the womb shall be the source of life. The name, and the womb is what? The source of all life. So this is talking more about an entity or a conceptual thing than is talking about a walking around, two-legged person walking around. These concepts were brought into being for the purpose of us being able to manifest as the tree of light as opposed to darkness. And are there any questions about that?
Yes.
Yeah, Bob. I can't see on the side, so just say something, okay?
I'm back at intercourse and intermingling, and Eve had intercourse with, so that means.
Sheldon says, speak loud, or forever hold your peace.
So that means that then the thoughts. What intermingled?
Okay, the thoughts.
Okay.
The thoughts were intermingled. The thoughts of righteousness and unrighteousness. The thoughts of light and darkness. That's why we can travel either road. We got a choice. Always have a choice. Now, this is the other thing, Bob, that it brings to mind. You don't have a two choices. And whether you make a conscious choice or not, you go make a choice. You go travel one way or the other. You go create. You are constantly creating. The only question is what you desire to create. If you have no desire to create, if you don't aware that you're a creator, you still creating. Whether you realize it or not, that's what you do. Because we know this, but we most of the time we talk about it in the negative. This is what we say. You always creating problems. Huh? Why don't you stop creating problems and do something right? We will not be a blessing to mankind until we are a blessing to ourselves. And the way we are a blessing to ourselves is that we recognize that we have peace, or our peace beyond comprehension. And that peace that we are, the way we are that peace is not because we're at peace when things are around us. Okay, when things around us are chaotic. You don't have real, true peace beyond comprehension, or that surpasses all understanding, until you are able to be at peace no matter what's going on inside of you. Inside of you. It's not about what happens external. It's about what's going on in you. When you can be at peace regardless of the chaos in you, that's when you become a blessing to not only yourself, but mankind. Because you can never be anything for yourself that's not extended to every man. Because we do affect each other. This whole thing of chaos comes from us. When we choose to live in the tree of knowledge of good and evil and we are talking negatively about everything. We're speaking disparagingly about each other. We are creating problems for other people. Or we give somebody the finger because they cut us off in traffic. All these negative things that we do and say. If I'm doing this, what happens? This energy leaves me, because energy is not stationary, it moves. It leaves me. And the energy, the negative energy combines with other negative energy, and that's where you get the chaos in the world. Because this chaos, this tree of knowledge of good and evil, is personal and global. It deals with us on a personal level, and it grows into a global thing. If there is a person in this government who decides that we go into war with Iraq, the war first begins in that person's heart. Now this person tells this other person, and the person buys into it. Now it begins to grow exponentially. And the next thing you know, is like, how did we get in this? How did we miss it? You see? And you take that and make application of it to our lives. How did we miss this? See, if we are to be true to what we say we believe, by virtue of believing that we, not only will we do the things that Yeshua did, but we do greater things. If we are true to this, then we must also be sensitive to how negative we are. Because we recognize we must change these things. When we cannot make the same mistakes that the disciples made. I'm going to give you one example, and I'm going to be finished, I guess. You remember when they were making an attempt to, quote unquote, cast out demons, and that's different than what we believe also. And they couldn't do it. And Jesus said that these only go out by fasting and praying. And he said, "Oh, ye of little faith." Remember that?
Yes.
This is what's happening here. They were looking to Jesus to do everything. He was teaching them, you can do what I'm doing. You are me and I am you. You can never be overcome by darkness. He was teaching them that. And they did not know how to bring order to that darkness, to that chaos. They didn't know how to do that. And he said to them, it's not so much as the fasting and praying. This is it. Because fasting is actually starving yourself of your desires and ambition, and praying to bring yourself into balance. So he's saying, if you separate yourself from your selfish desires, and if you bring yourself into balance with the Creator, then this will happen. And you can do this if you trust. Oh, you've little faith. So what he's saying is if you were doing what you have been taught, it will happen. If you trust what you've been taught. You're doing it, but you don't trust it. What am I saying to you? If you trust what you're being taught, you don't need me all the time. The day comes when I'm not your rail, your baluster. You know? Yes. You are able to do it yourself. That's what he was telling them. We cannot make that mistake. He told us, I'm done with this. Y'all got to handle it. We can avoid those mistakes. And we can avoid that mistake if we can begin to deal with things because we know what we've been taught and we're dealing with it. We begin to see who we are. We are dealing with it. When that happens, no one has to chase us out of the upper room. We leave on our own. We don't do it out of fear. We do it out of desire. We do it because it is right. and we cease to live in the realm of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we cease to serve mammon, attempt to serve God and mammon. In other words, we cease to submit to this material world because we understand that we are in it, but we are not of it. And that's the reason we do what we do, because we receive with the desire to share. The difference between the Adam who was created in the beginning, before the garden experience, the Adam received only. The Adam received, had nobody give it to him. Right? There was nothing to share with. But when the intermingling took place, now you have a choice. You could receive with the desire to share, or you could receive for self alone. So you could be selfish, or you could be selfless. You can give, or you can try to hold on to and become self-destructive. Okay. Questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Going back to the commingling of Eve and the serpent, I'm wondering, okay, so this was a commingling out of her choice, and then Barb said it was a commingling of thoughts. So, I guess, but I'm just a little bit confused about what actually that process is. Was it that she allowed, and I don't mean she in terms of a physical person, but she allowed those thoughts to be absorbed into herself?
Yes, not so much
To create
absorbed.
doubt, or
Yes, to create doubt.
Okay.
The maleness energy of the serpent or the Satan intermingled with the feminine thoughts. They became the seed for the feminine thoughts. And the female became the womb for the masculine thoughts. In other words, he blamed the female, right? To this day, the female is subdued, or there is an effort to subdue her, to overwhelm her, to suppress her. That is reflective of the feminine that took place in the garden. The male pushes his thoughts to her. This is what I want you to be. How many females in this world try to please a man rather than be pleasing to herself and her God?
Yeah.
I want you to be where I want you to be. Marry yourself. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, of course, it's simplicity, but that's what transpired. The masculine energy is dominating or commingling with the feminine by virtue of seduction.
And you can be like me.
Yes, I love you. I want you to be as I am. I want to take care of you. I want you to be all that you can be, not in the army, but just be all that you can be, period. I want you to do all these things, and then you say, okay. And then once you get involved in that relationship and you look back, you lost your identity. You don't know who you are.
So the serpent approached the feminine aspect of the Adam.
Yes.
Because that was the womb he created.
Exactly. Not
It
weakness.
received the seed.
That's
If
it.
If he had approached the male energy of the Adam, it wouldn't have done any good. Because it is that feminine
The womb.
aspect
Yes.
that receives the seed and then nourishes the
That's
seed.
right.
and then produces the seed.
Once it produced, then the seed began to, the feminine aspects of it began to intermingle with the male. So all this, now keep in mind, this doesn't take day 1, day 2, 1 hour, 1 minute. This happens. We're in the spiritual. And we see the manifestation of it. We see that. We see females constantly being manipulated by males. And there's nothing more distasteful than that. I mean, it is no coincidence that we live in the state with the worst criminal domestic violence in the country. I mean, it's no coincidence. If we can spread it out here, by virtue of the spiritual, it will spread exponentially. That's not coincidental. That's real. And also, we have to change how we perceive female. When I say we, I'm talking about males, because we represent that energy. Not only how we perceive female, how we treat them. You know, females are not our slaves. They are not our maids. They are not our sex partners. They are not our source of pleasure. They are us and we are them. Does that make sense? Don't ever let anyone say that the Satan approached the female because she was the weaker. That's not true. It's because she was the woman. That is not true. See, you don't have to lift 500 pounds to be equal to me, or the same as I am. And simply because you can't lift 500 pounds does not mean that you're weak. If I am weak, if you're weak, if I perceive you as being weak because you can't lift 500 pounds, then tell me to have a baby. Now I'm weak. You see, we do different things, but that's not weakness. That's just who we are. That's how we were created. It's just that simple. But yet complex. And I purposely avoided getting into the whole concept of how the spiritual DNA was changed, because it was going to get kind of technical when we talk about the mapping of the DNA in the 50s and how that transformed into the permutation of the letters in the Hebrew and Aramaic, and how life comes out of those vessels, the letters, etc., etc. So I purposely avoided that at this time. We'll get into it when that's all we're talking about. And I certainly did not talk about what I really thought I was going to talk about. But we talked about what we needed to hear. I know I did. Helped me tremendously. Any questions? Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. We talked about tree of knowledge, good and evil, tree of life, and the serpent. And so the serpent manifests today. Not the serpent, but the energy of the serpent.
Yes.
Manifests that as the averse thoughts that we have.
Yes.
And then we have to make a decision about which way we choose based on those thoughts that are commingling in our head. We have to choose thoughts of life and not thoughts of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah. The thought is just there until you do something with it. It's just there. If I walk up to the bank and I have the thought to rob it, I'm not arrested until I rob it, or choose not to, right? The thought is just there. It's what you make it. You determine the
When you
direction.
think about it like that, though, it just takes so much of the power out of this concept of Satan that we hear in the churches, and we are the key.
Yes.
It's not what the thing called Satan is doing to us.
Right.
It's what we allow
To happen.
through our thoughts
That's it.
to happen to us.
See, I don't want anybody to think for a moment that this is it has been my understanding all along. It has not been. I have been in the places and been the person who, quote unquote, cast out demons. I'm the one, I did that. I've done that so many times I can't count them. To the point where when issues would take place in churches, whether it was in South Carolina or other places, I would get a phone call. So I'm not saying that I have understood it from this perspective all the time, but I do now understand the reason it happened, because my intent was pure. And what I was actually doing was bringing balance, bringing light to that vessel. So when the light, when the negative energy is overcome by the light, then everything balances out. That's what was actually happening. I didn't understand it from that perspective. I really, really didn't. And some of you know, because you've been in places where I've done these things before. So I wanted to add that, because I don't want anyone for a moment to think that this is where I've been. I myself, I had to fall down the steps. I had to fall down the steps. I had to hold on to the rails. And even when I got to the landing at the top of the first set of stairs, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I was so overjoyed by what I experienced climbing those steps. I want everybody to know. But I was standing on 2 sets of steps. In this realm, I was on the steps of power, prestige, tremendous influence. So I'm taking what I see on this landing and bringing it to this place where I am. And rather than being able to transform it, I got pushed down the steps. I got cut off. And that manifested by virtue of my, at one time, preaching 3 or 4 times on Sundays, to, if I didn't preach at the churches I covered, I didn't preach at all. Because they shut me down, because they did not, and I say they, the powers that be, did not want their people to get the understanding, because they were afraid that they would come to me. And I'm saying, you cannot concern yourself with that. All I want is for you to understand. Doesn't matter where you get it from, just get it. And the last thing I want to say about that is this. There is no scripture basis for me being at my home church, St. Paul. There's no scripture basis for me at all. But there is scripture basis for me being at home wherever truth and light is being revealed. That's what my home is. That's what my home is. Not where I first saw the light. That's not my home. And it shouldn't be yours. Because if your home is where you first saw the light, you don't ever know. You don't ever get any place. You don't ever travel beyond. Let me show you something. Where's your home? You're not very good. It's not. You know, if you look in the natural, your home is not with your mom. Your home is someplace else, isn't it? So the home is not where you first saw the light. The home is where you are. Can you see that? It's where you are. Now transform it to the spiritual. Wherever you are spiritually, that's where your home is. But don't get so caught up in where you are until you can't find a new home. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. In other words, where you grew up is your starter home. Where you first saw the light, that's your starter home. You have to move beyond that. Because you outgrow the home. Right now, if someone told us that we had to move, I'd just get my books and my clothes. There is nowhere in the world I can pack up all that stuff. No way, unless they plan on sending somebody to do it for me. I can't do that. I'm too old to worry about that. No. But the younger years, I do it in a heartbeat. But now, I ain't gonna do it. If I go home today and Phoebe say, you know what, we can't be together anymore, I tell her, you got everything in here except my clothes and my books. I'm gone. And I just take my books and move on downstairs. She did. Ain't going nowhere. Shoot, I've been there more. I've been with her long as with my parents. So I ain't going nowhere. And if she go, I'm going too. But I ain't gonna want that stuff. Okay. Well, you know that. I said I won't, but she said Jane moved. I have to get some help. Okay, I'm done. I really am. Okay.
Just one last.
No, it's okay.
You said earlier that the disciples were supposed to do things by fasting and praying, and then you described what that was. Could you just repeat that again?
Okay. The whole idea of fasting and praying, if everything in the scripture is spiritual, and it is, because God says that He and His word are the same, and His word is spiritual. So that must be spiritual also. And what I'm saying is that our ambitions, our desires in this material world, we must starve ourselves of that. Wean ourselves off of that. And that's a struggle. And at the time we're doing that, we bring ourselves into balance with the light, with the Creator. Recognizing and being aware of the oneness that we are with the Creator. And then it is much easier for us to dispel negative thoughts or adversarial circumstances. Now, let me do another disclaimer. I fasted for 40 days and 40 nights with nothing because I thought that's the way it's supposed to be. And even when I got ready to eat, I didn't want to eat. Now, I believe I had to do that because I had to see beyond where I was. And you don't have to fast in the natural as long as the bridegroom is with you, right? Didn't it say that? You don't have to fast in the spiritual either. Because if the bridegroom is with you, your focus is not the material and selfish ambitions. In other words, the scripture is talking about a bridegroom being with us, right? So if the bridegroom is a male, how come I can't have a bride? Since I'm male. So it has to be something greater than that, doesn't it? So what's actually being said is that we are the womb for everything that is to be in the spiritual, and the bridegroom is the seed. So when we receive the seed, which is that word, we are to nurture it and bring it to fruition. And when we do that, the way we do that rather, is that when that word enters the womb, that's when we began to see that these material things are just that, material. They're temporal, they're not important, and we have to focus on dollars and cents are not important, people are. That's what I'm talking about. Does that bring some clarity to it? We have to focus on that. Dollars and cents are not important, people are. And I guess that's why we take our dollars and cents and make sure we get to the people. So, any questions? That's it. Okay, Barbara?